Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 15 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. This will be our final episode with the National Sand team that I featured earlier on in the week, and I'll be doing a team analysis on this team very soon, so look forward towards that. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this team. We'll be switching to a brand new team in tomorrow's episode of Road to Ranked as a new week starts. But we're going to jump onto the ladder, currently with a rating of 1857, so we are only a couple of battles away from reaching the 1900s, but of course when you're at this point in the ladder, each loss brings you down a fair amount. So let's see if we can go on a nice undefeated streak and try to pick up those last few points before we get to 1900. It'll be exciting as we find a 1885 rated player from Japan, which would probably put us in the 1870s if we win. And as always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please share your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. My opponent here is rocking a relatively standard team of Kangaskhan, Heatran, Zapdos, Amoonguss, Landorus T, and Sylveon. So immediately a bunch of threats, Zapdos with Tailwind here, Amoonguss with the Rage Powder support, Heatran potentially with Substitute. Standard looking Pokemon, but you can always run them with a twist. So Zapdos is one of the few Pokemon that gives this team a fair amount of trouble, just like Thundurus, because with the right support, for example, Landorus or Amoonguss, or Sylveon in that case, normally I use Tyranitar to check the Zapdos, but you can shut down Tyranitar relatively easily if your partner supports the Pokemon correctly. So the Zapdos here is probably going to be an integral part to my opponent's strategy. Let's see. I like leading Salamence just because I can intimidate against both his Kangaskhan and his Landers, and I can double edge and Hyper Voice. So something like Salamence and Tyranitar makes sense to me with the Amoonguss in the back, because Kangaskhan Zapdos I think is a very viable lead on my opponent's end. For the last one, I would like Aegislash here for the Sylveon, but then I really like the Heatran here. Not the Heatran, the Landorus here to beat the Heatran and the Landorus on my opponent's end. So I think I'm going to lean towards the Sand option on my team here and not bring the Aegislash. Might be a mistake, but I don't know. It's hard to bring Sylveon, especially when your opponent's team has both an Aegislash and an Amoonguss, and I feel relatively safe here. An Amoonguss can also shut down Sylveon by getting a Spore off, so it should be an interesting match. Very strong looking team on my opponent's end though, so it's going to be scary. But I'm going to go with Salamence and Tyranitar, get that Intimidate and the Sand up immediately to try to disrupt my opponent. Looks like we're going to see Kangaskhan and Zapdos from my opponent's end, which was actually the lead I was predicting, so this works out alright. Though it's fairly interesting here because of the fact that Kangaskhan here, probably going to want to fake out the Tyranitar slot. So I could make a bunch of plays here. But what I'm leaning towards is Mega Evolving and just attacking with the Salamence and switching Tyranitar out into Amoonguss to get that Rocky Helmet damage off. And I'm actually going to I'm going to play a bit more aggressively here, and I'm actually not going to go for the KO onto the Kangaskhan slot, because what I want to do is set myself in a place where I can Spore the Zapdos. So by bringing in the Amoonguss here and getting a Hyper Voice off here, I think the Zapdos is going to want a Tailwind, and if he does go for the Tailwind, that works out perfectly for me. If he goes for a Hidden Power Ice, unfortunately I lose my my Salamence, but then I can bring the Tyranitar back in and just Rock Slide Spore. So Kangaskhan's going to choose the Mega Evolve here, presumably going for the Fake Out or the Power Up Punch onto the Tyranitar slot. Either would be perfectly fine with me, but yeah, I'm not going for the Knockout here because he is going to go for the Fake Out, targeting, yep, Amoonguss, so that works out perfectly. So the Rocky Helmet damage there adds up. Tyranitar gets out, and Tyranitar's really good, especially to beat the Zapdos here, so I'm pretty pleased with this first turn. Let's see if Zapdos goes for the Hidden Power or the Tailwind. I really think he would go for Tailwind, since he'd have to assume that my Tyranitar is Choice Scarfed, and he is going to reveal that Tailwind, so it's exactly what I was hoping for, and that works out pretty nicely here. So by not knocking out the Kangaskhan, my opponent doesn't get a free switch into the Heatran, which he presumably has in the back, and I get some free damage off against Zapdos, and any damage against Zapdos is always good. So that works out pretty nicely here for me, and I'd say I got the better end of that turn. However, it's still a scary game, for sure. But if any, I can easily stall out Tailwind. That's not a concern. I wonder if Double Edge and Hidden Power Ice will knock out Amoonguss. Because one play I could make here is switching out into Tyranitar and protecting with Amoonguss. Yeah, I actually really like that play. I think Salamence is incredibly integral, as he actually makes a fantastic play with drawing Kangaskhan, probably Heatran coming in here, yeah. So I could have Spored the Zapdos, but I was afraid of the Double Edge and Hidden Power Ice double target onto Amoonguss, so I played a bit too safe there. Now in retrospect, I think it would have been better just to go for the Spore onto the Zapdos regardless, so not very pleased with my play there, but it's alright. Tyranitar still gets to be able to come in for free, and neither of my opponent's Pokemon can do too much here. He actually reveals the Heat Wave with the Zapdos, which is always a big threat. Hopefully no burn here on Tyranitar. If no burn, that works out alright. He actually manages to get the burn. No way. Ah, that's a bummer because Zapdos was in Rock Slide KO range. So it makes this match a bit more interesting, but definitely not going to give up yet, obviously. So I'm definitely Rock Sliding here with Tyranitar. The thing is, I want to switch the Amoonguss out here because, you know, Salamence can obviously take the Heat Waves, but if my opponent's smart, he might hit and Power Ice the Amoonguss slot, predicting me to switch out, and neither of my Pokemon can take HP Ice too well, so fortunately here, I think I'm actually just going to have to go for an attack here onto the Zapdos. You know, I can protect with the Salamence and the Landers in the back. He actually withdraws the Zapdos, so if Heatran's Heat Wave doesn't knock me out here, I'm going to be in a really good position. He reveals his fourth Pokemon. It's going to be that Landorus T, so the Landorus on my end here was actually a really good call because it easily beats the Heatran and the Landorus on my opponent's end. He's going to launch a Heat Wave. I don't think it will knock out Amoonguss, but it unfortunately does. It looked like I had a chance of hanging on there, but looks like a bit more offensive Heatran. Maybe Life Orb? Nope, not even. So I'm going to get a Rock Slide off here, but he's in a very, very good position at this point in the game. That Burn and the Intimidate onto Tyranitar, you know, I'm absolutely doing nothing right now. So, yeah, things not looking too great here. I think he's probably going to lock himself into Rock Slide with the Landorus. I'm going to bring in my own Landorus here. Yeah, losing Amoonguss there wasn't good. My opponent made a great switch. It could have worked out in my favor. I'm not sure what the damage roll onto the Amoonguss there was because the Heat Wave was, you know, obviously a spread attack. But here I think I'm just going to Heat Wave and Protect. Yeah. I want the Tyranitar to go down. My opponent can make another good play by switching out into Kangaskhan here. That would be a good read. But, yeah, I definitely lost a lot of momentum coming out of that first turn, mainly because of the Amoonguss. I think I really needed to spore the Zapdos slot there, and I played a bit too safe, going for the Protect and allowing Heatran to switch in for free. Looks like he's going to stay in with both of his Pokemon, though, so that's at least good. I would actually love for Tyranitar to be knocked out here. He actually goes for the U-turn onto the Tyranitar slot. Great play on his end there. So that's going to knock out my Tyranitar. Wow, one hit, actually. I wonder if that's Choice Banded. Wasn't expecting it to pick up the KO there. And Kangaskhan, I'm probably going to be able to come in for my opponent there, which is not good because my opponent will then be able to get a Fake Out and a Heat Wave off against it, which I'm not looking forward towards. Yeah, so Kangaskhan coming in here, and he's going to go for a Heat Wave. So no substitute there with Heatran, but it's going to be a scary endgame here. I might actually have, if I can get a double Protect, I think I can win this one. If not, then Landers is going to take a Fake Out and a Heat Wave, and that's not good news for me. So I'm just going to go for the Hyper Voice here, and I'm going to go for the double Protect here with Landorus, because if you're my opponent here, you just go for the Fake Out on the Heat Wave onto Landorus. Unfortunately, I don't get it here. He does go for the Fake Out onto Landorus, yeah, as expected. Oh man, that does so much damage. So Salamence is going to get a Hyper Voice off here. Kangaskhan's going to go down, but yeah, biggest misplay this game was just playing too safe with that Amoonguss. If I got the Spore off against Zapdos, he wouldn't have been able to put on as much pressure. Wow, he actually goes for the Overheat, which I wasn't expecting on Heatran, but a fantastic move there. That's why I was, really hoping I could get the double Protect off. So, unfortunately, Landorus actually not being able to do anything this game, getting no damage off whatsoever as it falls down. And unfortunately, Salamence isn't going to be able to solo this game, so it looks like it's going to be a loss in this match. Even though, I got burned on the Tyranitar, my opponent definitely played better switching into a Landorus. I don't know, this Heatran, Heatrans typically are a bit more bulky. Yeah, I really have no way to win this one, so I'm just going to see whether yeah, he has actually Scarf Landorus, but yeah, that U-turn did a lot of damage to my Tyranitar. So Salamence is going to take a Rock Slide here, and then gets a flinch as well. Heatran's going to go for the Heat Wave. I actually am curious on the damage roll onto the Amoonguss, since Amoonguss does invest in some special defense EVs, but I think if I were able to survive that and get the Spore off successfully against Landorus, I could have not easily won this one, but that would have given me a lot of momentum. The main misplay in this game was not going for the Spore after turn 1 onto any Pokemon, since it was relatively free, and it would have been a bad move on my opponent's end to double up down to Amoonguss, but I was just a bit too scared there. So obviously, Amoonguss just went down. Tyranitar getting burned definitely didn't make me predict as well as I should have, since the Landorus in the back was not so obvious, but definitely could have predicted that. Losing Amoonguss in one hit was also pretty bad, because Amoonguss did pretty well against the remaining Pokemon on my opponent's end. So, if I switched Amoonguss out into Salamence there, I could have put me in a better position, but I think it was just me slightly going until after getting burned with the Tyranitar, and then him having Heat Wave with Zapdos, and yeah, a difficult one to swallow up since that game worked out very nicely after the first turn, but it is what it is. That does put us at 1842, so not the end of the world, but this will be our final game with the Sand team. My opponent did play a really good game after that first turn there, I thought, because he realized that the Amoonguss had the Rocky Helmet, so it only made sense for Kangaskhan to switch out, and I'm not even sure a Double Edge plus a Heat Wave. Well, since he had Heat Wave and a Hidden Power Ice, probably would have knocked me out there, but it was a tough call to make, and the reason why I should have just gone for the Spore that turn instead of protecting was because of the fact that, if you knocked me out there with the Amoonguss, then I get a free switch into whatever I had in the back, so I guess this is just me really reflecting on all the things I could have done better in that game. Just because it was really, really good after that first turn, but then Tailwind went up, and then Landorus, unfortunately, not being able to do anything despite, being able to one-hit KO both the Landorus and the Heatran on my opponent's end. Another good play I could have probably made was not protecting with my Landorus, as we find Lewis from Japan with a rating of 1629, and going for the Earth Power directly onto his Heatran slot. Lewis here's got a really interesting team, somewhat resembling Paul Chua's Rain team from yesterday's team, but Politoed, Ludicolo, Aegislash, Salamence, Heatran, and Ferrothorn. Now, Ferrothorn is actually one of the most difficult Pokemon with this team to deal with, so I'm not looking forward to that matchup at all. Let's see, I like Rotom Wash's lead a lot here. The only thing that really gives that trouble is like the Ludicolo and the Aegislash. So I'm going to go Rotom, and I think I'm going to go Salamence. Yeah. I want Tyranitar here. Definitely not going to bring a Amoonguss. The question is, do I want Aegislash or Landorus? I'm leaning towards Aegislash here a bit more. Though I guess Landorus with Earth Power can knock out Aegislash and his Heatran, but my Aegislash here beats the Politoed, Ludicolo, Salamence, and Ferrothorn pretty well. So I'm gonna bring Aegislash here. He can't knock it out here unless he brings Heatran, but I'm not sure if he really wants to bring Heatran against a Tyranitar, Rotom, and a Salamence. It's actually pretty interesting because my opponent's running 3 Steel types and a Heatran on the Rain team, and obviously the synergy there. You don't want to bring a Heatran when you're bringing the Rain core of your opponent's team. But I'm looking forward to this match. I think he's got a really cool team, and a bunch of tricky things as well. Ferrothorn and Aegislash definitely were Pokemon that gave me trouble at US Nationals, so that's going to be a bit hard to deal with. So I'm wondering if my opponent's going to end up bringing both, but that's why I brought the Aegislash over Landorus, because Aegislash has a slightly optimal matchup. Though Landorus, of course, can get the Oko onto Aegislash if Sand is up, so whereas, we do have to deal with who's faster with Aegislash, which is also a common trend at US Nationals. But I'm going to go with Salamence and Rotom. He's going to lead Salamence and Ferrothorn, which is actually probably ideal here. My Intimidate goes first, but that doesn't, confirm that I'm faster than him. If anything, we might speed tie. I'm wondering, do I want to just go straight for the Draco Meteor onto his, Ferrothorn, his Salamence, and risk the speed tie? I normally don't play that risky, but in this position, I'm tempted to. I think I'm just going to go Will-O-Wisp, Ferrothorn, and yeah, I'm just going to Draco the Salamence this first turn. If anything, I think my opponent would play a bit safer here since my lead matchup is much more advantageous than his. So, and if he's running Dragon Pulse, my Salamence can also hang on. So my opponent has to potentially win the speed tie here if he's faster and connect with the Draco Meteor if he even has it. Otherwise, he might also just be a special Salamence, not a special one, a physical one with like Double Edge, Earthquake, the one we saw earlier on in the season. Could also be mixed, which is definitely the most popular Mega Salamence set out there nowadays, but we'll see. Either way, lead matchup is pretty decent here. I got the Intimidate off against Ferrothorn, which is always great, so I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp. I don't know what item he has. Lumberry is typically pretty common. He actually withdraws his Salamence, which I'm more than okay with since that's free damage. Looks like it's going to be Politoed coming in here, so that's going to be able to set up the Rain. But that's alright because I do have the Tyranitar in the back, so I can easily shift it back into my favor, and I got a lot of free damage off here. Oh, he actually pulls the double switch. Very interesting. So I presume that the Ludicolo is going to come in here. Yep, that looks like Ludicolo. Oh man, a Hyper Voice would have been really clutch here, but free damage, and Burn is actually really nice against Ludicolo because it's relatively bulky, especially against special attackers, so getting that free residual damage here every turn is really great. I actually missed the Draco against the Politoed, which really stinks because it would have been around 40 to 50% of free damage, but at least Will-O-Wisp connects with Ludicolo here, which is nice. So, yeah, that definitely sets me back slightly. A very smart play on my opponent's end there, though. So, This next turn I'm actually just going to protect and switch the Salamence out into Tyranitar. Now this is a really predictable play, so I don't like this very much, but that's the difficult thing when you're playing against Rain, and it's also the difficult thing when you're using a Rain team. For those of you that watch my matches against Palachua at Nationals, like a lot of the times he was anticipating me to switch out and make these moves, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stay in. So he Ice Beamed me multiple times when he was predicting a Salamence switch in, and I never made that switch out until the very end. But here, you know, I would not be surprised to see my opponent Ice Beam and Scald the slot with Politoed. I'm assuming that's Scarf Politoed, I guess we'll see. If that is the case, then that's actually really good for me. You know, the Draco Meteor connecting would have been helpful. He's actually going to withdraw the Politoed. Fantastic move on his end as the Ferrothorn comes back in. Really good play there. I like that a lot on my opponent's end. And if he goes for the Scald onto the Tyranitar slot, that's going to be such a good move. What does Ludicolo goes for? He goes for the energy, but onto Rotom. So close, but so far away. Really scary turn there, but fortunately managed to escape too much. And that Tyranitar, you see, that's why I like getting the burn, because he hasn't done anything. He's already taken 2 turns of burn and the sand damage, so that's great for me. Now this is kind of interesting. My opponent can make a bunch of potential plays. For example, withdraw the Ferrothorn back out into Politoed, and then he could Scald, or he could Energy Ball. I don't really have great switches to Scald, which is kind of problematic. Rock Slide Thunderbolt is very tempting here. But he might also just stay in and attack with Ferrothorn. So I don't really want to lose the Weather War here. Which is why I'm inclined to protect with Rotom and switch Tyranitar out into Aegislash. But you know what? I'm actually just going to Will-O-Wisp Ferrothorn and switch out into Aegislash here. So Tyranitar switches out first. The question is, does Ferrothorn switch out here? Or does he maybe just protect Energy Ball, which would be also a good play. He actually does withdraw, but he's actually switching out the Ludicolo, not the move I was anticipating there. So Politoed comes back in, but also a good play there. I guess we'll figure out what item Ferrothorn has here. I definitely like the position here a bit more than the last turn. Will-O-Wisp connects with Ferrothorn. Is he Lumberry? Is he Rocky Helmet? Is he Choice Band? Let's see. He's not Lumberry. That is so good for me here. He's going to go for a Leech Seed on a Politoed, but a burn against a Ferrothorn is fantastic because, you know, Politoed and Tyranitar don't do very well against it in terms of damage output. So he does get the Leech Seed off, which is, you know, obviously a bit annoying to deal with, but I'm willing to pay that price right now. I'm actually going to, let's see, Thunderbolt, Politoed. I'm going to double up on Politoed here. I think it's going to be Choice Scarf. It looks like he's staying in, so I should be able to pick up a knockout here, and that's really good because it means that I win the Weather War here, and Tyranitar basically sets it up. But nope, he's actually Citrus Berry, so forget that Choice Scarf. But since I doubled up onto it, I should be able to knock it out. He's going to go for a Scald here. Hopefully no burn. That would set me back, especially with the Life Orb damage. No burn this time around, which is nice. So Aegislash is going to be able to change into Blade form, get a Shadow Ball off, and that should knock out the Politoed, meaning that Sand should be up for the remainder of the game. But oh, he hangs on with like a couple of HP. As he goes for the Leech Seed onto the Aegislash. So smart double target there onto the Aegislash. Wow, I was not expecting that survival, but makes this game a bit more annoying. Just because he has the freedom to switch Politoed out now, and he managed to get a Leech Seed off against both of my Pokemon, and you can see how Ferrothorn's annoying for my team to deal with here. So that's great for my opponent, not too great for me. But the burn here still reduces any potential damage he can do, which is good. So what I'm going to do, if he's smart, I think he should go for the Leech Seed onto the Aegislash slot. So I'm going to Thunderbolt the Politoed, and I'm going to switch out into Salamence here. Yeah. Because nothing on his team resists the Thunderbolt, so if he protects the Politoed, that's fine. I get my Salamence in for free, to which I can Hyper Voice and switch out into Tyranitar. If he switches out into Ludicolo, Thunderbolt plus burn damage brings him in range where I can switch into Tyranitar, and then the burn plus the sand will knock the Ludicolo out. So that burn onto Ludicolo earlier on was actually really great. Unfortunately, me missing the knockout or just missing the free damage with Draco Meteor on Politoed kind of sucked earlier on, but you know, that's 90 accuracy for you. He actually is going to withdraw the Politoed, which I think is a good play. Salamence is actually coming in though, which is okay by me, especially because I get my Salamence in here, and he has to protect because otherwise he loses the speed. Because, of course, my Salamence is already Mega Evolved, whereas his is not, and that means that I'm going to be able to outspeed him for sure this following turn. So he's not protecting with Ferrothorn. At this point, you know, that makes sense. I do get a free Thunderbolt there, does around 45% of damage. He actually goes for the Leech Seed, predicting the Rotom to switch out, which is nice. So that works out in my favor. So this is definitely looking pretty solid for me right now. Definitely far from over. If I knocked out Politoed, I'd feel a lot better about the game. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So I think my best play here is to switch Rotom out into Aegislash. And it was actually kind of interesting. I wonder what his Salamence is going to do, because the safe play is obviously to protect. So I could, you know, predict him and go for a Hyper Voice, or I could also protect with my own Salamence. I could also Hyper Voice here. Yeah, I think I definitely want Rotom out of here, though. Just because it's not doing too much, and it helps against Palkia and Ludi a fair amount. This is a really great game. I'm really enjoying this one right now. I could also just double edge Ferrothorn, but I'm gonna go for the protect. I think he's gonna try to Leech Seed the Salamence and protect Salamence. That's the move I'm predicting. So if I can bring in the Aegislash for free, you know, that loses a lot of momentum on my opponent's end. So let's see what he goes for here. He actually withdraws the Ferrothorn, not the move I was anticipating, but a good one at that. If I double edge there, the Ludicolo would have been gone for, and that would have been great. I'm also guessing the Salamence is going to be going for an attack here, but he didn't Mega Evolve, so I'm guessing he's protecting. Interesting decision there, to choose to conserve the Intimidate, but to risk the speed. Huh. Very, very interesting. So that's alright, but a very cool play on my opponent's end there. One which, if I double edged the Ferrothorn slot, I would have won this game for sure. But now we're in a more interesting position. I used interesting like 5 times just now, but so I could switch Salamence out into Tyranitar and just Shadow Ball Ludicolo. But here's the funny thing. He could stay in. I think he's gonna try to predict the Tyranitar. He could switch out Salamence into Politoed and just scald the Salamence slot. So you know what? I'm actually gonna Shadow Ball the Ludicolo and switch out into Rotom Wash here. So this may look like a really silly play, but I want to play as safe as possible. I don't want to easily just lose my Pokemon instantly. So I'm gonna bring in Rotom. Oh no, he stays in with Salamence. Okay, so I didn't predict that right, but because my Salamence was faster, I would have switched into Tyranitar and he would have switched into Politoed, which is personally the play I would have made there. He's just going to go for the Scald. That's actually a really good play, but oh wow, I hang on. It gets the burn. Let's see what the Salamence goes for. He goes for the double edge onto Aegislash. Good play. So Aegislash goes down here. To a crit. That was a smart double target. I mean, if I switched into Tyranitar there, well, I mean, yeah, I still would have been done for. So, Rain does end there, which is actually really, really helpful here. That's actually exactly what I needed, because what I'm going to be able to do is bring in my Salamence for free. And now, you know, I can just Hyper Voice, and he doesn't have any free switch-ins. But that was kind of a frustrating turn there. I kind of over-predicted what my opponent would do, because I thought the Tyranitar switch-in was very obvious on my end. So if I switched into Tyranitar, Scald wouldn't have done as much damage. I don't even know if he would have been able to knock me out. But I get a free Hyper Voice off here, and I'm going to go for the Thunderbolt onto the Salamence slot. I think my best play for my opponent here is to switch Salamence, or protect Salamence and switch Ludicolo out into Politoed to get the rain up once again. But that's where missing the knockout onto Politoed earlier on really, really hurt me, because of the fact that he has that ability to now switch it back in, and you know, it makes that end game just a bit harder, because Tyranitar can't just set up the sand for the remainder of the match. So it's going to be a close one here for sure. But that last one was really frustrating. I was like, yeah, he can be really smart here, switch into Politoed and then Scald my Salamence slot to try to predict the Tyranitar switch in, knock me out in one hit, and then he has rain control. And if that were the case, I surely would have lost the match. But looks like he's going to withdraw the Ludicolo, bring back the Politoed. That is a very good play. I'm actually wondering if his Salamence protected. If not, this might be bad. Though he didn't reveal Draco Meteor. Yeah, he does go for the protect. So I'm actually okay with that, because then I get a free switch and back out into my Tyranitar, which just sets up the sand for the remainder of the match. So even though obviously he gets the rain up, which is great for him, I can switch into Tyranitar, and now rain is definitely gone for the remainder of the match. So this next turn I'll be able to switch into Tar and put myself in a much better position, as he's probably going to bring in Ludicolo once again. So I'm glad I got Ferrothorn burn, but one thing I have to consider is the late game. You know, how do I beat Ferrothorn at the end of the game? And I have to rely on Hyper Voice from Salamence or Superpower from the Tyranitar. So I can't afford to just lose Salamence that easily, which is why I realized I might have misplayed a bit this last turn. This is a very, very intense game, though. A really great way to close out, you know, our time with this team. But I think my opponent here should bring out the Ferrothorn. At least that's what I would bring. Not the Ferrothorn, I mean the Ludicolo. Yeah, he is going to bring in Ludicolo. Unfortunately, the switch here to Tyranitar is so freaking obvious, but I don't really have a choice here, I don't think. I mean, if he Smart Heal Energy Ball that slot. But regardless, I need the sand up to make sure that my Salamence outspeeds him. or at least his Ludicolo. So, you know, this is such a predictable play, but my opponent might try to just catch me off guard and try to pick up a knockout, make you know, if I were to go for a crazy play, but I'm not going to go for a crazy play. I'm just going to play as safe as possible here. I wonder if this Salamence also has Dragon Dance. That would be interesting. But my Salamence going for the Protect here. What is Ludicolo though? He is going to go for the Ice Beam Perfect into a Salamence slot and go for a Dragon Dance. Looks like Salamence does carry the Dragon Dance here. So he has Double Edge for sure. You know, but that means he probably does not carry, Earthquake, so he doesn't have Draco Meteor, which means that Tyranitar here should be able to help me out a lot in this match. You see the Ludicolo so far hasn't really been able to do much, and both of his Pokemon now I can just Rock Slide with my Tyranitar. So what I'm going to do is switch my Salamence out into Rotom, because I need Salamence for the late game to beat both Ludicolo and the Ferrothorn. And I'm going to lock myself into Rock Slide here. His best play is probably to switch Ludicolo out into Ferrothorn and protect with Salamence, but I'm more than okay with that. I know that his Salamence has no way to knock out my Tyranitar in one hit. As long as I get one Rock Slide off and I connect with the Salamence, it's going to be game, because my Salamence wins the game. So the Salamence, you know, Mirror Match here, very scary. So my Salamence switching out first. And like I said, I just need to get one Rock Slide off here, so even if he protects, like, he actually just goes straight for the Double Edge, so that should be a good game, as long as I don't double miss my Rock Slide. As he actually knocks out Rotom with the Double Edge there, that is such a powerful attack. Perhaps Ice Beam would have been a safer option there, but let's see. Does Rock Slide connect? Tyranitar uses Rock Slide, does connect with both Pokemon. Thank goodness, that should knock out both of his Pokemon. Yeah, so Salamence goes down, actually getting a critical hit there, and Ludicolo goes down as well. Of course, it's still not over yet, but now he's got a Burn Ferrothorn against a Tyranitar, which is using Rock Slide, so 30% flinch chance every turn, and a Salamence. But if he manages to get 2 Leech Seeds off, this game is still definitely doable, which is kind of scary. But, you know, at this point, I'm feeling pretty good because I've got that burn adding up. And if I get a flinch here, the game is definitely over. But I'm not going to go for the Protect here because I think he might try to Leech Seed the Tyranitar. So I'm just going to go for the Hyper Voice Rock Slide. That should do around 30 to 40%. Actually, more damage than I expected. So Tyranitar also gets the Rock Slide here. So one more Hyper Voice should knock him out. If I get a flinch, that's also just going to end the game right there. And he unfortunately flinches. So, I wonder if he went for the Leech Seed onto Salamence or onto Tyranitar. I mean, regardless, even if he got a Leech Seed off, the burn would have negated it, so one more Hyper Voice would have knocked him out. So I don't think that flinch mattered at all, but, you know, it just makes the match a bit more easy to finish. And, almost clocking at a full 15 minutes there, but that was a fantastic game there. Really, really close. You know, scary Draco Meteor missed to start the game, and then the crazy mind games with the Weather Wars, but that's why Rain against Sand is always a very, very interesting matchup. Unfortunately, didn't bring Landorus here. I don't think Landorus would have been the right call, so having Aegislash here was definitely very helpful, since my opponent had no way to really hit it for major damage. So that win should put us back over the 1850s, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, you know, took 2 losses throughout the course of the week with this team, but otherwise, I think, we were 8-2 with it, which I'm more than pleased with. So it was a fun run. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be posting analysis on the team soon enough when I'm ready to. And yeah, we're almost at 40k subscribers. By the time this video goes up, we might actually be at 40k, which is kind of cool. But thank you guys. It's been a really fun week, and I'm excited to feature more stuff on Road to Ranked and continue to make content. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, like always, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, peace.